Life is all about relationships. Lovers, family, body, or money. How satisfied you are can be completely explained by how you relate to things around you. This is Sophie Jaffe, and together with my husband, Dr. Adi Jaffe, we are here to explore and teach you how to maximize your relationships and achieve a happier life. Let's get ignited.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Ignited Podcast. I'm Adi Jaffe.
I'm Sophie Jaffe.
And today we have other podcasters on.
Yes.
Which is really cool.
Yes.
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 They're not as famous as we are.
No, they're not as cool as we are.
And they're not as cool.
They're not as funny.
They're older and there's no humor at all in anything
they're not
they do.
Pretty either.
Nope. No.
Like their faces are hard to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was a difficult episode to take on.
Yeah. But the masks they wore were fine.
Those
Those ski masks I gave them.
It was like a masquerade ball. When we had a masquerade ball, we shot this
let's
episode.
Play with the kids' costumes.
No, so today we have for you the Almost 30 podcast crew.
They're the best.
They're fucking hilarious.
They crack us up. Lindsey and
we
Krista.
went serious. Like we definitely went as serious, I think, as Almost 30 can go.
Yeah. It
But
took a turn, but it was so fun. And
I know.
We could have talked forever. It was late at night. It was a dark and cloudy night
In Los Angeles.
in Los Angeles.
What I love is, if you're one of the people who hates when I swear, do not listen to this episode.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember.
These girls are...
Oh, yeah. They're pretty raunchy, too.
Yeah, they get as raunchy as humanly possible.
Yeah.
I think we started with wet and moist is literally
That's
how the
true.
episode started.
That's true. You would remember that.
I would remember it, yes.
Yeah.
But they're just so fun.
Yeah.
I feel like they
bring the fun out.
they bring the fun to wherever they go, and they're like going on tour after this and all this amazing stuff.
Yeah, go check out and subscribe to Almost 30. Give them some love, and you're going to love this episode. It's just so great.
And their story is amazing of how they met and how the connection happened. And what I love about that is, look, we started the podcast because we felt like we were having these conversations that when we would engage with other people, we wanted other individuals to have access to that. We wanted to be able to talk.
I do feel like, so Adi asked me for about a year before we decided to do the podcast. He was asking me to do a podcast. And I was like, I can't take on one more thing. I want to have a baby. I have philosophy. There's just too much going on with the big kids. I just can't take on one more thing. And he kept bugging me and, putting little birdies in my ear. And
I never, by the way, if you're getting this, I never bug Sophie.
Yes, he was like, he was relentless. So, and I didn't really get it. I was like, oh, I don't want to. And then I was a guest on Almost 30. You should go listen to that episode. It was really magical. And after being a guest, I was like, Adi really wants to start this podcast. I feel like I should do it. And that was the catalyst of allowing me to
so thank you, girls.
Yeah. I felt comfortable and I got it. I was like, okay, well, if we can have conversations like this every time, then yes, I want to do a podcast.
Yeah. I mean, that was my whole point is we would, not only have we been through a lot and everybody who wrote you after the articles that you put out there about our struggles, but I mean, you know me, right? I'm bad at coffee table talk. Like I'm not great at just, hey, the weather is really nice out today.
Well, that was the impression I kind of had. Was that it
podcast?
I just really wasn't a podcast listener.
Yeah, sure.
So the years before that, when you were asking me, it just sounded, I was like, why would we want to have a radio show? Like that doesn't make any sense. It's annoying. No, but this is the real deal. And we are so raw. Just so you guys know, we never edit. It's not like we have prepared scripts and like we just shoot the shit. We just show up as we are. And sometimes we're in the middle of a fight and we tell you that. Sometimes we're in a great mood. Sometimes I'm achy and super pregnant. Like we bring who we are in that moment to the podcast because the point of this is to feel more intimate with you and share even more intimately our lives with you as listeners.
Yeah. Actually,
and to grow together and to expose topics that, you can't really get that deep on the www, the web, the world wide web.
I thought you were going to start scratching there or something like waka waka what. Sophie's got pregnancy brain up the wazoo, if you will. I just had this really cool idea. You know what? I'm going to ask our podcast listeners to tell me if this is a good idea or not. I would actually love, we don't have big fights that much anymore, but I would actually love to get on when we're in conflict.
Yeah,
kind of
let's
resolve it live.
Who wants us to get on fight, the podcast?
Like literally start recording during a fight. Let us know.
Yeah, if we can have the wherewithal to actually like plug that shit in. I mean, let's do it.
That'd be cool.
Be really embarrassing, but for you, we will do that.
Yeah, totally. It's just, because I think people believe somehow that we've got this perfect relationship, and it's like,
I don't think they do now. If you tuned into the last 3 episodes, now that bubble has been broken. Yeah. No perfection here, but that's how we would much rather be, as we talked about.
Totally. That's funny. So when I met the Almost 30 crew, what I loved about
this... Is a crew 2 people?
They can.
Nope. Nope. Just the Almost 30 girls.
Sophie will not let me off the hook today.
Lindsey,
I love it.
Krista, but like, they're not a crew.
Well, but what I love about it is they met in this hyper motivated kind of the Soul Cycle world, and then took just the regular conversations on air, and they've created this movement of other, primarily women, I assume, but women all over the country and probably the world who tune in because they are the same. They are relatively young women who are all about the motivation and all about the getting out there and making the best of the world, but then life happens. And so bumps in the road
like
occur.
Turning 30.
Yeah, right, like turning 30, or just struggles like breakups or beginning of new relationships. And then so much of the stuff that you end up seeing in the world is, so all these other things happen throughout life, the ups and downs, the regular ups and downs that people, unfortunately, don't feel really comfortable talking to everybody around them because we have to put on these masks. We have to seem perfect. And so what's so magical about their movement, the fans that they've collected, I mean, they're going on tour to go and have these Almost 30 experiences with all of their followers around the
real
world.
Conversations. It's very similar to what we do. It's just that theirs is a little more feminine. Ours is a little more balanced. And I feel like this is what we want as a culture right now. We want the real deal conversations. We want to sit face to face or hear someone's voice, a real conversation on the phone, not text message. Like I think of like Twitter and Instagram as like the text message versus this podcast, which can be like the real deal, like a phone call.
Well, I think that's why podcasts are doing so well right now, is because no matter what you're interested in, no matter what you care about, no matter what you're looking for, odds are there's somebody doing that in the podcast. And then you get deep, right?
Yeah.
You get
you can learn so much. I've learned so much from podcasts. And
speaking of learning something and going deep, and the reason why podcasts are popular, should we jump into the relationship tip and teach ourselves something about relationships?
Let's do it.
All right. So you wanted to talk about something that our therapist, we've gone to couples therapy.
Once or twice.
I think it was once.
Yeah.
One time we saw a therapist.
Yeah, but don't tell anyone.
No, this is just between us guys.
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
Yes. So the one therapist we saw once a week for like 5 years. One of the things that he really liked to say, you mentioned ahead of time, was stay curious. What do you mean by that?
So when you're going into a conversation, if you're going into any sort of situation with your partner, maybe you're in a fight, whatever it is, staying curious. So this also is kind of like staying humble. Going into this experience, conversation, whatever it is, without being assuming, staying open, curious, humble, and just kind of full of wonder, the way that you would like the first time you do something.
Okay, so let's play this out for our people because they're listening right now and saying, well, what does this mean? So, if you're in the fight or something happens with your partner, they bring up...
Yeah, they do something that maybe typically, like instead of assuming that they're doing the thing that's going to piss you off, or instead of assuming they're taking the lazier way or something that's just more negative, making no assumptions and instead staying open and curious to it being different.
But what do you mean? So let's say like I don't know, I showed up late or something like that, or I said something that made you upset.
So,
how does somebody
so
stay
let's say
curious
that
in
I
situation?
walk downstairs and there aren't lunches made because I didn't do it the night before. Typically, I would assume you hadn't done it, right? I would walk down and I'd have kind of an attitude of like, of course, I'm going to have to do the dishes right now, or I'm going to have to remind him to do them because he's not going to think of it on his own. So instead of walking into the situation already pissed off, already with a preconceived idea of how this is going to go down, yes, it's based on history, but me bringing that energy into the room and into the conversation is only going to make us fight more.
Okay.
So walking in and in a curious way, genuinely just curious, hey, did you start lunches yet? And really meaning it from that curious place and that open place of not knowing and not assuming.
Because then you're not bringing the tone and the negativity already into the conversation.
Yeah, and it's like the start to our day and one of our many interactions throughout the day. And I want it to be pleasant. And I don't want to like start the ball rolling in that negative way. But sometimes out of habit and just bad habit, we make assumptions based on prior history. And every day is a new day. And the energy I bring into the room and into the situation, into the relationship is so strong. It's half, but it's even more than that because then you start to mimic and feed off that same energy.
Yeah, and I'm sure everybody listening has been part of a conversation where it felt like everything was going really, really well in your day, and then somebody brought their expectations and assumptions into a conversation, and then you get pissed off because they did it, and next thing you know, you're fighting, even though there's no real reason to fight.
Well, you're also not giving them a chance to change. If you're always assuming that they're doing the thing that's wrong or the thing that makes you mad, you're never giving them an opportunity to change. So if I walk into the room, I'm like, hey, did you start lunches? You might just pick the stuff up and just start doing it versus out of spite, being annoyed and being like, no, like whatever. Like just, it's just a different energy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. I like it.
So staying curious.
Yeah. And I also love the fact that then the tone of the conversation changes.
Yeah.
So that's really, really nice.
I mean, this is your partner. You want to be loving with them.
Yeah. And this falls in line with a lot of the stuff that we talk about in workshops when we do with couples, and really about communication and paying attention to how you communicate and the kind of language you use, etc. Which, speaking of which, by the way, BTW, we've got our couples intro relationship workshop that's live.
Yes, it just went live today. So when you listen to this podcast, it is live.
Go to the show notes below. I'm doing the thing with my finger where it's below where I am right now.
Down.
It's not really below, but if you go to the show notes, you will find it there. And yeah, so it's like cheap, easy, flexible, amazing way to just bring these tools into your life.
Super affordable. It's about 3 hours of our time. We have all kinds of activities that are looped in. It's really, really beautiful.
And there's folk dancing.
There's different payment plans.
There's different, it's like what we did is, I really love this choose your price model.
Yeah.
If you need help, it's at half price. You can buy it at the regular price, or if you're feeling generous and you want to kind of pay for some of the people who buy it at half price, feel free to do that. It's
like buying your Starbucks for the person in the drive-thru behind you.
Yep, pay it forward.
Yep.
And I'm really excited about this because when we do live events, there's a specific time. Not everybody can show up. They're a little bit more expensive, and they're limited in terms of how many people we can handle at one point in time. So I'm really, really excited about this.
Yes, let us know how you like it. If you try it, give us feedback. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll see there in the communication piece of it that so much of it is actually how can you learn about your partner's communication more than how can you impose your will on your partner.
Exactly.
And with that, we are about to impose the will
of the almost 30 girls.
Of almost 30. See you on the other side.
Bye. This episode of the Ignited podcast is brought to you by Philosophy Superfoods. The Philosophy offers cleanses and other nutritional products that are unlike any of the other supplements and detoxification programs on the market. Why? Because they actually nourish the body with whole, live, nutrient-rich foods instead of depriving you and leaving you hungry. Have you ever tried a cleanse only to find out that you can't make it through a whole day because you're starving? Ever try a superfood shake that made you nauseous because it was so disgusting you'd rather not eat? The Philosophy fix all that with a simple set of offerings that load up your body with nutrients while actually tasting good. Makes sense, right? Each of the Philosophy superfood and protein blends is vegan, raw, gluten-free, and has absolutely no filler ingredients. With over 15,000 satisfied customers, including some of the world's biggest celebrities like George Clooney, Gerard Butler, Lea Michele, and over 10 years of experience, this is the best stuff you can get. To buy some or find out more info, go to our website, thephilosophy.com.
All right, welcome everybody back to the Ignited podcast. This is the interview section of our weekly little shindig, our event. And
you guys are so in love, it makes me puke.
we're going to go dark. I think we're going to go dark today.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, yay.
Into the womb.
And moist.
Into the womb, yes.
And all that, all the other
We
stuff.
keep it dark and moist.
Let me, first of all, this is probably going to be a warning before we go to the interview, but if you've got kids around,
Yeah.
turn the volume down, put headphones on, or just press pause and wait. Delayed gratification, speaking of warm and moist, is sometimes the best part. So
Wait, does anyone listen to our podcast with children?
I was
Because
wondering that.
I know.
It's very explicit always. So
Yeah.
this is like going forward. This isn't just this episode.
Yes, it's like, it's a new rule.
Disclaimer, right?
I think right before that recent episode that I keep mentioning every single time we do an episode since we've done it, the one where we tell our story.
I love that it took 25 episodes for us to tell our story, but I told it on theirs. And then like that was
Within
my
1
coming
minute.
out.
Was it?
Yeah.
It was so funny. I listened to the episode of you guys telling your story. I was like, did I miss like the time? I was like, I'm surprised that, we got
No, we haven't.
exclusive.
You did. So you got the major exclusive, and then we just did the full hour and 15 on ours.
Wow.
So
I think
good.
it's out this week, so tomorrow it'll be out.
Oh.
I'm a little scared. I'm not gonna lie. It'll be interesting in terms of people's response, but we're 22 episodes in, I think, and so people have sort of gotten used to the shtick. But it's I don't know. I mean, the reason we started Ignited was to be raw and vulnerable and honest. So, what better way than to just open the door to your closet and be like, which of the skeletons would you like to try out today?
All of them. Perfect.
I love that. Yeah, you're like,
Well, thank God for you guys. I mean, truly. Well, because I think, the shame needs to be lifted. I think the conversation needs to be had. This is not the first time this has ever happened in the history of human beings. And I think that, instead of turning your back on it and running away from it and having maybe patterns repeat themselves, I just think it's beautiful that you're willing to be like brave. I think it is brave to talk about it, especially for like our generation, and generations to come, and for your kids and like your kids' kids. Like it's very, very important. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, I think
you guys inspire me.
I think especially right now with the world of the internet and social media, where there isn't very much vulnerability and there is so much like filter on top of filter, from the way we talk to what we present to how we filter it, to how we edit it, to just what we're promoting and releasing into the universe. It just becomes more and more covered up, and there's no realness, like, very little realness. There's some of us that are still sharing that the best we can, but it's only one modality and it's 2D as it can be. And I think at least being honest and vulnerable, like on your podcast, Almost 30, and ours is like, there's no option. It's like the world needs it now more than ever.
Sorry, when you were talking about 2D, you mean Instagram, like the actual pictures?
Like either Instagram or blog posts or just like photos that you want to present and an image and a facade and
Yeah, I mean, I fought for us to do a podcast for a long time because of how deep you get to go on a podcast. There's no other way to do it. I mean, it's what radio kind of was, but I don't know about you guys. We don't have, a radio station in the back here.
Yeah.
and let alone the funding and all the stuff that has to kind of go along with it. So the ability to have these sorts of conversations with anybody you want at the deepest level. And then if what you're offering is honest and speaks to a crowd, they'll show up. It's almost like you don't have to worry about it. They will show up if what you deliver is authentic.
So true.
Yeah. And we've seen that, like with Almost 30, just that is the number one key to our success, besides doing it not just for ourselves and for our ego's fulfillment, but for the greater good and sharing of the messages, like people like you that come on our podcast. But our authenticity and vulnerability is, the reason for our success. And it makes me so proud because there's no other option for me than to be myself completely. And I know that there are podcasts where people aren't, and it's not anyone's fault, but it's like, and you see it in their success. It plateaus. It doesn't go as high as it should or whatever, but the podcasting as the medium has been the best for that reason.
Yeah. And you guys are 100% yourself. And I love that because, I mean, I'd actually even love to hear, I read the about and sort of kind of the surface piece of how you met, but I would love to hear A, how you met, and B, which one of you at first was kind of like, oh, this shit is fucking great. We got to do more of this. I really wonder about that.
Yeah. So for how we met, so I wanted so badly to be a SoulCycle instructor. I know you used to take Soul for your pregs prom. Too sweaty now.
Too.
Still do.
Yeah, still ride it. So I was living in New York. I was like obsessed with SoulCycle. I wanted to be a SoulCycle instructor so bad. I auditioned. I didn't get it. And then I was connected to Lindsey because I was like, I'm going to audition again. I'm going to go for it. Like, no fear. And Lindsey was like helping me out with my audition because it's a really intense process. So you apply, you have to like fill out an essay. You have to get accepted and invited to the audition. You audition in front of people, and then you move on to another round. So it's really intense.
Let's pause for a second. There are people listening right now who have no idea what SoulCycle is.
Sure.
And I got to tell you, so SoulCycle spin to like ridiculous music, right? And the first class that you ever took me to, Sophie, was a Sunday in West Hollywood, and I felt like I was going to church. I don't remember the guy's name, but I work with people on motivation and helping them get and break through, etc. This guy never got on the bike, but he walked back and forth and looked you in the eyes and
That's David.
He was so motivational that by the end of it, I was like, I think I'm going to go start my own country.
Totally.
It wasn't even about the workout anymore.
Yeah, totally.
And I know SoulCycle kind of has its own little cult following, not little, but a cult following because you walk into this space. Speaking of dark and moist, by the way.
So
Yeah.
true.
But that's a theme. We have a theme.
All good things are dark and
Episode title.
moist. Yes. Dark and moist with Almost 30.
So I just wanted to kind of clarify. SoulCycle is if you take spin and then transport yourself into outer space with really loud thumping music and like Tony Robbins speaking in your ear, going like, "You can do it. It's all about stage. Just make it happen." Sorry, Tony. I don't know if that has anything to do with your voice, but that's sort of like what's like SoulCycle. Okay, so Lindsey was helping you with the audition.
So Lindsey was helping me with the audition. She was living in California, and then my boyfriend and I moved to California. So I came to audition in California. I didn't get it again, but it was connecting me with Lindsey. And, when we met, it was like immediate connection. It was immediate knowing and immediate recognition of, someone else. For me, it was like the missing puzzle piece. I have an amazing boyfriend. I have an amazing life, but I was looking for that person that was like my side, like someone that was next to me, not someone that would mirror me or someone that would be like me, but someone that would be beside me for like a growth path journey. So we were like hanging out one day and, I was just like, should we start a podcast?
Yeah, it was literally that type of conversation where it was born out of we were having these conversations about, okay, so we had just moved across the country. I was going through things, in a past relationship, things were still kind of going on emotionally. Just any and all things, health and wellness.
I didn't get
really
Soul Cycle, and I was like, honestly, I had never been drawn to something more than I thought that. I literally was like, this is made for me. I'm meant to do this. This is what I'm meant to be here for. And I didn't get it twice. So it was like, what is
the purpose?
Yeah. Like, how do you know what you're meant to do? Like when you're like, how do you trust your intuition? Like, it was just very perplexing to me. So we knew that those conversations, like, we weren't the only ones having them.
Yeah, and those are some deep questions. I mean, people struggle with that all the time. Just the fact that you just mentioned reaching out and being vulnerable enough to reach out to another human and say, I like you. Can we hang out more and be friends? We did a whole episode on that because literally a DM from somebody saying, how I just moved. What do I do?
Yeah.
I don't know anybody. I'm with my husband and my kids in this new city. I know nobody. What do I do? And I go, you kind of have to friend date. You have to go find your crowd. And it's really weird when you're an adult. Nobody tells you how to do it, but you're not in school anymore. You're not in a new job. Those are the places where we normally meet people. And so just to have that knowledge, I love that I love the way you talked about just knowing that the connection was there from the beginning.
Yeah. And you have to like go for it,
Yeah. So we just started recording kind of on our closet floors, quite literally, with this like janky little recorder. And we would sit on pillows and suffocate in the closet and have these, really fun conversations about what we were like in our 20s, what we were learning in the transition to our 30s, what we're afraid of, like in our 30s, what we're excited about. And we would make up all these different segments, and we were just playing for like 6 months.
That's awesome.
So we started, I think, in March of 2014, just playing around. We didn't really know. There was a lot, as you know, with technology, like we didn't really know what we were doing. So we were just creating content that actually never hit the airwaves. But for us, it was like our little incubating time. We were ideating on, okay, what types of things do we want to talk about? What is our flow? Who are we in this space? Are we experts? No, we're learning right along with them. So we wanted to just kind of feel out what our place was in this podcast world. And it's evolved, from episode 1. If anyone's ever gone back and listened to it, we roll our eyes. We're like, oh God, I don't know if you should go that far back. That's it's not what it is. Yeah. But it's, it was who we were at the time. I mean, it was really fun and raw and, cringeworthy at times, but to see the show evolve like it has, I mean, that's like our dream, to be able to reach more people, and our community has really helped to shape what we talk about, who we bring on, the conversations that we continue to have. And I honestly could have never dreamed that this is what it would be, could you ever dream that you guys have a community like you have? It's mind blowing, and it inspires us every day. Like when I wake up, I'm like, yes. It's just literally. So exciting, and it's not about us. Literally the passion is the connection with people who are learning and growing, and also connecting with other people in the community. So,
yeah. So what was it originally that drew you to Soul Cycle, that made you feel like it was the right thing?
I think it was the community aspect of Soul Cycle. I liked that there was leadership in it. I like that, the instructor's a leader and they're sort of in charge of the energy in the room. And I have always felt like I'm a leader. I've always felt like I have, a confidence that could carry a room. So I was just enamored with that. I loved that aspect of it. And it's funny, when I didn't get it the first time, I was like, what is it that's not there? And I remember when I got on the microphone, as soon as I got on the microphone at Soul Cycle, I didn't know how to be on a mic. And so I started to be kind of weird. I defaulted to trying to be funny, but it was weird because I was wearing a full face of makeup trying to be funny. It was like very uncomfortable. Everyone's like, okay, is she like a pretty girl or is she like a funny girl? We don't know what kind of girl she is, but we have 30 seconds to figure it out. It's very weird. And so I started to get voice lessons. So I started to meet with a vocal coach like every week to be better on the microphone.
Oh, wow.
So it's funny that was like setting me up for this too.
The reason I was asking the question is it seemed like you kind of got what you wanted out of SoulCycle out of this. You
And
know,
more.
and that's what I love. You were saying before, how do I know if I should follow your intuition? The answer is just yes. Just do.
Yeah.
Because the thing that you went for might not be the thing that works out, but as long as you're actually listening to what draws you, it'll keep fixing itself, right? It'll keep going, this is kind of it, but not really, but that person is really cool. Let's connect with that and then go on. I was blocked to intuition. I was just talking about this in the live chat this week with my course people too. For so many years after essentially high school, I went through a rebellious phase, and I got told so many times that I'm not what everybody expected me to be, that I just started saying I need to do everything on my own. So this literally would go back to about 7 or 8 years ago in our work, realizing that I needed help and I needed to ask for help. And it worked a little bit too with rehab and all that kind of stuff. But this idea that we need other people to bring out the best in us was really foreign to me. I lived in the completely different place for a long time. Like if I would have met my co-creator in that other state of mind, it would become a competition thing rather than a collaborative kind of thing. Whereas now I'm actually actively seeking out my crew. The guys that will be part of the team that ends up being my people, the people that we elevate each other, right? Versus me trying to compete with other people. So I love that you knew that route was going to lead you to something. And it did. Leadership, having a community, all the exact same things that you just mentioned are there. And so, for anybody listening, it's like, do I follow my intuition? The answer is yes. You have no idea where it's going to lead you, but just keep following it and it'll end up somewhere really, really cool.
It's never been wrong.
Yeah.
Your intuition is never wrong.
Yeah.
If you can track it back, you know.
We learn to mask it.
Totally.
But it's not wrong.
That was the one thing. I got interviewed today for a Mother's Day thing. I don't remember what brand it was, but someone interviewed me and they were like, what?
Fuck them.
Just kidding. I don't know who it was. They didn't pay for this, so I'm not going to mention them. They said, they were like, we were going to ask it in this one way, but instead we want to ask, what is one piece of advice or a few pieces of advice that you would give to your children? I think initially would have been like to the readers. And so I said, just follow your intuition. I was exactly that. I was like, there's one thing that I want them to do. It's to always follow their intuition, to find that inner compass, that true north, that, that gut feeling, and trust it and follow it and listen to it and keep sharpening it, because that's what's going to guide them in their life forever. Like through all their relationships, through all their sorrow, through all their difficulties, through all their joy, it's always there. And it's the one thing, at least in my life, that has provided the most profound experiences in my life and the utmost growth and learning. And that's like all I want for them, is just to be able to have and find their intuition and keep it fine-tuned.
Love that.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it can be hard. I mean, in the world we live in, that can be really, really difficult to do because there's so many outside signals in terms of what you should do and what you shouldn't do. Sophie and I have talked about this. I grew up in a house where I was going to be a doctor. Why? Because my dad was a doctor, and that was the thing. Like that was the thing to reach for. And so you're not paying attention to anything inside, because if anything is trying to misdirect you from that goal, then it's wrong somehow. And you go through high school and junior high, and these times where all these other kids that are telling you what they think is the right thing, and you want to be part of the cool clique, so you end up listening to that. And to have somebody who can help keep centering you and say, well, what does it feel like is the right thing, et cetera, can be really powerful and also really difficult. I on that same chat today, a new person just joined my course, and he was telling me that he did the first module and it uncovered some things for him that he had never realized before. And then he sent me a follow-up email. I'm not going to talk too much about specifics because I don't want to sort of expose his stuff, but no name or anything. But he experienced a lot of death around him when he was younger. Both people in his family and people close to him, friends, girlfriends, etc. And he is now probably 20 years after it. And for 20 years has not at all addressed the fact that over a period of a year and a half, like 3 or 4 people in his life died, and it scared the shit out of him. Mm. And the problem is that if you don't listen to that voice, what you do is you end up spending all of your time trying to mask it. And that's when people get into drug and alcohol problems. That's when they start doing things with other people that they shouldn't do. That's when you start trying to run, because that intuition will always be that voice. You all know, anybody who's listening right now and knows what we're talking about has had that voice in the back of their head going like, turn around. Mm-hmm. You're going the wrong way, right? And you can choose to ignore it for as long as you want, but it'll keep being there, and it'll get louder and louder the farther away you get from where you're supposed to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's hard. I'm not a parent, but just thinking about my parents, I mean, I think it would be hard just not to come from a place of fear as a parent, you know, kind of allowing them to listen to that voice. And it might kind of throw them in a zigzag type path at first, but with a parent, when you can kind of see farther down the road, and for you as a parent to not want them to experience any pain or heartache, it just must be really, really difficult. Totally. But I think it's beautiful to kind of center it around the intuition and get them quiet enough. There's so much coming at them. Those little people, they have so much pressure. And I just think about like my younger brother too. I'm like, there's just so much coming at you and you don't know how to process it all the time. You can't even hear your own intuition.
Exactly. And you don't know what voice that is.
Yeah.
You don't know, there's just so much coming at you and you don't know to trust it. So I hope our boys, and I feel like Kai already is kind of there. Leo.
Go to bed, Leo.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like jumping around.
Get your hands off my cash, Leo.
That's the best.
Well, you know, I think for me, the family I came from, it's also hard as a parent not to be too directive in terms of where I want their intuition to go, right? I think a lot of parents lean on that too much. Like, oh no, this will be really good for you. Oh, this will be really good. And completely ignoring what the kid wants.
That's not intuition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with intuition.
Yeah, so true.
That's their own
projections of like their expectations.
Yeah, with Leo and Kai, like, we don't know. We have no plan. We are planless. And it's really refreshing, but also scary as fuck because we're like, they're so different. And, you know, we show up to each thing and kind of like, we practice being really open to their experience and really like looking at it like, why would you do that? Like, and really being curious, just like, how am I supposed to handle this? And not handling it the same way with both of them because they're different people and not handling it the same way every time as like a standard, you know, and like, while also trying to give them consistency, while also trying to give them boundaries. So it's like this constant, like,
dance.
I feel like I'm learning that now.
Yeah. Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What were your experiences growing up? Family, support, you know, all the stuff we're talking about right now in terms of how your parents addressed it.
I grew up in Ohio, beautiful Ohio. And I had, you know, my parents were very closed off and pretty inconsistent. So it was like I was getting different messages from both of them. My relationship with my mom is probably my most challenging relationship I've ever had.
Interesting.
She's, you know, bipolar. She's had anxiety. She's been suicidal a lot of my life. You know, she was really just, it was really hard to understand. She never admitted it until we got older. So that was like a little bit challenging for me. And I never felt like I could completely be myself. You know, I was like put in some sort of box, but my dad was like my shining light. You know, he was always someone that I felt like I understood me. You know, we always had a very special relationship. So that's kind of played itself in my life where I've had really good male relationships. I've always had amazing boyfriends, amazing guy friends. And, you know, it took me a long time until I got older to like really allow women into my life and like trust women, that they weren't going to be competitive with me, that they weren't going to be judgmental of me, or that they weren't going to turn on me.
Because you experienced that with your mom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear that a lot from women.
Yeah. I don't know what that is.
This competition thing that ends up developing.
Yes. I mean, my best friends from home, my sister, everyone always talks about it. You know, my mom is just very competitive with me. It's very weird. I don't understand it. But you know, right now I just am very at peace with it. I don't mind. I've kind of released it. I have no pressure on the relationship, but, you know, one of those things where you're like, I'm thankful now.
Yeah. I just really want to respect for each of us, looking back at those patterns and getting in peace with them is great. But first, at least acknowledging them and understanding, because I feel like, again, I see so many people who wonder why some patterns are happening in their lives. And then you look back at their early life and you go, well, I'm sorry to tell you, but this has been going on since you were 3. This has nothing to do with who you are as an adult. It has to do, and that's why I was asking, is I just really, I love hearing that trend, the arc of kind of what was it like, and then what had to happen for you to get to this place, because for all that mistrust, here you are with a best friend who's, maybe the road wasn't so obvious. It wasn't like a high school friend or somebody that you've known your whole life that you just continue the connection with, but you were able to reach out. That's
yeah.
cool.
And I feel like also too, something that helped me was like believing that my soul was put into the body, but like, and I am a product of my environment, but really my soul was a lot developed before I was in my parents' body. And so it was a lot of their doing the way I grew up, but then too, it was a lot of just who I was no matter what. Because I feel like sometimes these people are born in these situations and there's no fucking way that like they could be who they are with that situation or those circumstances happening. So I just feel like I was already a lot formed before I was like, given the experiences that I had through my childhood.
You mean people who kind of elevate beyond where they came in for?
Yes. Or like are in these situations that are just dire and terrible, and they're able to be like great people or, dynamic people that are beyond, and vice versa, could go positive or negative. But I feel like I was just already who I was before I was put in those situations. So I have like a trust and faith in that.
That's cool.
Very
cool. Lindsey, what was life growing up?
I grew up in Pennsylvania, just north of Philadelphia, and I'm the oldest of 4 kids. So I have 2 sisters and a brother, and I have the most amazing supportive parents for kind of this unpredictable path that I've chosen in my life, and they've always just been my biggest fans, and I love them separately. I love who they are separately. I don't love them together, which is interesting.
Are they together?
They are together. Yeah.
Interesting.
So I've never really known my parents to love each other in the traditional way. So
more like a business kind of.
They met in January, got engaged in February, married in September, had me a year later. So they're just now getting to know each other now that we're all out of the nest.
Wow.
And, they're doing their best. I just think there's a lot to unpack that it has nothing to do with the marriage. It's almost like my dad lost his dad when he was 17 and he's had to be on his own since then, has gone through a lot of trauma, my mom as well. So it's just, I don't think they've ever dealt with that stuff. And to bring it into a relationship, having never dealt with it, it just makes things really complicated. So what I'm kind of experiencing now, starting this new relationship and just even in casual, like friend relationships or anything throughout the years, is that what I've seen is kind of what I've attracted.
Sure.
Of course, it's a pattern, but I didn't recognize that. So I didn't know that I was, repeating history in that way because it was comfortable. That's what I grew up knowing. Even though I can recognize, I'm like, that's not what I want. you know?
And yet it's the thing that ends
It's
up
the
being
thing that
patterned in your brain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I've been working on just releasing that by thanking them in my heart and just being like, thank you so much for showing me what I don't want, you know, like in a lot of ways, which if I think about it hard enough, I'm like sad, but then, you know.
Do you ever have those conversations with your parents?
Yeah.
Do you talk to your mom or talk to your dad about, hey, I see this happening and here's the way it looks to me?
My mom more.
Okay. Because your dad's more closed off to it?
He's more closed off. I think my mom is so willing to do the work.
Is he just kind of, and zero judgment, but kind of the stereotypical guy who's just
100%.
sort of like, what are you? Yeah, I don't talk about that kind of stuff.
You know, it's his, he lives in a pain body. You know, I love my dad to the moon. Like he is someone that I want to be proud of me every day till the day I die. Like I just like, I adore him and he's, you know, been behind me my entire life, but he lives in a pain body. So it's really hard for him. He thinks he's being selfless by not taking care of himself and dealing with a lot of that.
So interesting.
But it's really selfish, you know? And I pray every day. I'm like, I hope that there's a moment that everything just pivots and shifts and he sees that all we want is for him to be happy, you know?
Yeah.
And listen, I've had a very privileged, amazing life. It's just that one thing where I'm noticing as I get older, I'm like, oh wow, like that really did affect me more than I thought it did.
Yeah.
And I just have to do the work as it comes up, you know?
Well, and again, just having the recognition that the work is even there to be done is such a huge step, because I feel like in the generation right before me, my mom comes from a Holocaust family. My dad comes from a Scandinavian family, which honestly, I don't know if, and no offense to all my Swedish and Norwegian friends, but I feel like there's nobody's allowed to feel in Scandinavia.
Totally.
They're like, oh, we're having a feeling. We're going to put it out in the snow and it'll just permafrost forever. And we're just never going to see it. And there's just like the epitome of being stoic.
Sure.
And I grew up in that household. We joke about it all the time, but Sophie knows the story. When we had our kids, I only speak Hebrew to our kids. And
so cute.
When we had them, I say I love you, what, Sophie, like 12 times a day to them?
Easily.
Yeah. Probably right around there, right? And initially it was so weird because nobody ever said that at my house. So in Hebrew, I love you was really foreign sounding. And I know my parents love me. That has, just like you were just saying, like, that's not the question. It's just they come from a different place. You show that you love somebody by feeding them and taking care of them and doing, not by sharing feelings and emotions. Right. So in my relationship with Sophie, I'm still working on it now, 12 years into it, but I didn't have emotional language. It just didn't exist. So I had to learn what feelings are and what the labels that go along with them are and all this kind of stuff that other people apparently just get. And so it's not trauma. I had an amazing childhood, but it's still learning that I have to do.
It was funny in a few of our therapy sessions when our therapist, Mark, he'd have to pull out the vocabulary feelings chart because the D was like at the level of a first grader. He'd be like, well, what's under that feeling? And he's like, I don't know, just sadness. And he's like, okay, but what's under that? And he didn't have the vocabulary because its feelings weren't talked about, Hebrew or English. It just wasn't.
Sure.
It was just like, you just did it. You just do stuff. And when you're around his mom, you get it. She's so beautiful, so sweet, would do anything for the people in her life, anything. But there's no time for feelings. It's like, you know, her mom was a Holocaust survivor. Like, that's the home she grew up in. Like, we're not going to fuck around, talk about our feelings. Like, we've got shit to do. And that is the energy that comes off in the most like loving way. It's really interesting. And so, and Adi's dad was like that too. Just, he was in the army. He was a doctor. Like, you just do, and you handle your shit, and you get on with your day, and you don't complain, and you keep on moving, and you do whatever your family needs. But that's the way of showing love. And my family was not like that. My family was feelings and let's talk about it. Let's talk about it again. and again.
Can we talk about it?
Shout out Phyllis and Ruben and Nancy. Yeah, it's funny. It's still like that. And, and that's what I know is like, let's really get into that. Let's really get what's under that. Let's really feel that. Are you mad still? Like, I really want to know, like, what's under that? And it's just different love languages and it's different ways of expressing and being. And I'm so grateful for it. And also for our coming together and learning each other.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, thank God I didn't meet somebody who was like me. Fuck, if I would have married somebody like me, it would be ridiculous.
Yeah.
We would either not talk to each other. It'd be like, there'd be 3 states: screaming, not talking to each other, or sex. Mm-hmm. Those would be the only 3 relationship states that would exist in my house. Like,
sure.
I'm not unless we have something to do together, I'm not talking to you. It would be kind of like that. And Sophie is absolutely the person who, no longer because she's now pregnant and with 2 kids, but so there's not as much time to talk about your feelings. But when we first met, it'd be like 1:00 and she's not done talking about it. Like, Soph, I can't do this anymore. No. I gotta go to sleep.
But did it feel so good once that those floodgates were open where it was like this just stream of communication? I feel like
things got resolved.
Yeah, just so much quicker.
It's
great.
What movie was that? I think it was The Departed or something where Matt Damon, he's like a Irish cop, and he's like, I'm Roman Catholic. I could be miserable till the day I die and I won't end this relationship. I feel like there's so many men that walk around in 100%. That state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I'll go get 3 girls on the side. I'll have an entire other life.
Yeah.
I'll cut myself or drink shots of bourbon in the kitchen when you're not looking. I'll do whatever I got to do to handle it. Let's just not talk about it. And again, part of the reason why we do this is just fucking get it out. Just like rip the Band-Aid off, start the talking. We all want it anyway.
Yeah.
We're just hiding and running away from it because men in the past told us, all the classic shit, right? Like boys don't cry and you're not supposed to have a feeling, get over it, all that stuff. And we internalize it so much that we now are in a place where we actually believe it's not okay for us to have feelings.
It's so hard, like for men, because it's like, okay, so they have a feeling and then their initial reaction is to like shut it down or like distract. And then they don't know how to, and then it's like if they were to process it, they don't know, like they don't have the vocabulary to explain it. And then it's like with their, testosterone or whatever. So, I mean, I've never, I've really had a hard time. I've met really amazing men in my life, and I have Justin, who's amazing, and my dad is amazing, but the emotional capacity or the ability to communicate feelings for men is really challenging and really hard to find.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the solution is. Like, Kai and Leo are so lucky, like they are going to be, knights in shining armor. But for now, it's like, how do women elevate their men or find men that are more able to communicate?
Well, so from our experience and the way I literally talked about it today in the weekly chat with my students, I structure it like a job. I go, your job, which I have no problem explaining to guys what their job is to do. I go, your job is to learn how to do this better. So like we bought the 5 love languages, the book, which is great for a guy, but a little too touchy-feely. They literally have a companion, the 5 love languages for men. And it's the same sort of idea. Is like, if this is your partner's love language, here are the tasks that you can engage in to do more of that. So I think we just have to put it in each other's language, literally, so that we understand each other. Because my belief is that for the vast majority of men and women out there, they want more. They want to be better understood. They want to understand better. It's just scary as shit because you've never done it. And, when from Mars, all the conversation has always been, we're so different. So let's not even try to understand each other. And so we kind of end up being in these separate camps, and I just don't think it's helpful. I'm with Sophie. And if I only find my communion, if I only find my community and the people that I connect with in other men, it's going to cause a problem in my relationship with Sophie. Because I think that's one of the things that pisses me off more than anything. And I don't have any more guy friends who do this because I think I don't give off the energy that somebody can do it. But if somebody's hanging out with me and they're bitching about their partner, it pisses me the fuck off.
Yeah.
100%.
It's like, what the fuck? Why are you with them?
You're a loser.
Yeah.
Bye.
Why-
You're a fucking loser.
Like, why are you?
You look dumb.
It's
Bye.
ridiculous. But it happens all, I mean,
All the time.
It happens all the
women
time.
too. I do feel like women.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think
Absolutely.
both
Women do
sexes.
it a lot. And I just think it's more admirable and also just higher vibe. If, you can vent, but like, can we kind of collaborate and talk about, hey, how can we make this better instead of just bitch. You
Yeah.
know, I think there's a productive way to
no, 100%.
vent.
I'm not saying everything has to be perfect. That's a really good point. That's a really, really great point. So I was saying it before, I've started literally in the last 6 months to tune into the notion that I actually need men in my life. I never used to have guy friends ever. So when Sophie and I first met, and for years before that, all my friends were girls. All of them. Sometimes there was more than just friendship, and other times it was just friend. But I was surrounded with women. I had like 2 guy friends pretty much my entire life. And Sophie and I went through everything we went through. And so I actually let go of essentially all women in my life. The only women who I'm friends with are Sophie's friends. And it wasn't until literally this year.
Lucky you.
I'm a lucky man in so many ways. We will get into that in some other future episodes, but I am lucky for many, many reasons. But it wasn't really until the last 6 months to maybe a year that I went, I am missing something. And for me, it is like male energy in my life. But now what I'm trying to be much more cognizant of is, what do I want? What kind of guys do I actually want? So I ended up in a dinner with 2 guy friends who are at that level, like the energy level that I'm looking for, and we absolutely talked about our relationships. But it was more like, hey, this is going on in my life. What should I do? How can you guys help me? Versus, can you believe or whatever? And I used to be in that place where guys would talk about it in that way, and it's like, I don't want that energy. I don't want that way of thinking around me. Because look, we're all responsible for our own damn lives, right? And so if this is going on in your relationship, you really have 2 options: leave or fix it. If you're just sitting around and bitching about it, you are the problem. And so now we don't have it. I feel like every random once in a while we have a friend who is literally just bitching and venting. But typically, honestly, they're single who just started in a relationship and then they're just looking. They don't really know. It's different. I mean, once you've spent a long time with somebody, I feel like the level of commitment that Sophie and I have is beyond personality characteristics even at this point. It's just like we are intertwined in each other's lives, and we have to respect that constantly. What's the 4 agreements? Be impeccable with your word, right? That's one of the agreements. Always. I really hold that in high regard. It's, if you have people in your life you're bitching about, you're the problem. They're not the problem, right? Either you're not a good fit for their relationship, or you need to say something you haven't been exposing. And so you're stuck because of what you're doing or not doing.
Absolutely. It's difficult. I'm like, it kind of gives me comfort to know that you guys are still working on things, like I love that. I love that there's
maybe I gave the wrong, we have a perfect relationship. We haven't fought in 9 years? Years, minutes, the time flies. Time flies with your third person. Yeah.
But I think there's these weird thoughts that come into my head sometimes where I'm like, oh God, like the fact that it isn't like almost perfect, like freaks me out. And I don't know where that comes from. Cause
Disney.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from.
Or
it comes
it's
from
like
Disney.
the opposite end of the spectrum where I'm like, I saw what I saw when I grew up and I just wanted to be like, over here, the other side.
Because it's so scary to end up in that same place.
But I need to like chill.
But I think I just kind of walked into part of this conversation because I was reprimanding my children. But I feel like my relationship is perfect because it's flawed, because we get to go through all that stuff. Like, really.
Yeah.
Like, whenever we go sometimes on Sunday nights to a couples meeting with other couples who have been through what we've been through. And I mean it when like I sometimes have to like dumb it down so that it's not so excitable, but I'm really grateful that experience happened to us and for us, like that experience and all of the experiences are for us. And now like I recognize it right away. Like right away, I notice it and I'm like, oh, this is a lesson. Oh, this is going to help us grow. Ooh, I can't wait to be on the other side of this, you know? And it's like, all right, we got this. And it does take awareness to be like, this is a growing moment. But I guess also with someone that you trust, that's what's so perfect about it is like, we have an agreement. Our agreement is unless one of us isn't in love with the other anymore, we're doing this. We're not going anywhere. So no matter what I do, I'm safe. No matter what I say, I'm safe. And same for him. And our relationship is sacred and safe and in a container, you know, it's not going anywhere. And that is the reassurance. And that is the perfect relationship, I think, is just knowing that you're on the same page. You can say and do and be anything. And they're still going to be there. When you wake up, they're not going to like pack their shit and run.
Sure.
Yeah. That is perfect to me.
Love that.
How long is this relationship you've just been in? I'm calling you out now.
Oh yeah.
Honey, this is
and a
fresh.
half.
Now we're both even.
Uber
Yeah.
fresh.
This is very
I love
fresh.
Yeah, very fresh.
I won't ask you for details because we'll have you back. Like we'll have updates.
Yeah.
We'll do like the 6-month update, et cetera, et cetera. Cool. So we have questions, and whenever we have two people, I really kind of will be a little flexible in terms of how we answer the questions. But we have questions we like asking everybody who comes on the podcast, and I'll leave it up to you to decide if you want to answer them solo, as a couple, or whatever. So the first one is, what is the best advice that you've ever gotten?
What is the best advice you've ever gotten? This is where having two is so nice because I can look at Lindsey and just kind of wait long
Lean
enough.
back.
I can wait long enough to see if she answers.
I mean, I've really been very lucky to have people kind of whisper in my ear along the way, especially in the last few years in LA. I feel really like this place is magic for me. And
I agree.
And in a place where so many people are doing so many things that are similar, everyone's creatively different, but it can be overwhelming. You know, if I'm overthinking things, but for me, it's, you know, one, I have everything I need. So instead of, and we've heard it, it's been overused, but it really rings true because I think at one point I was spending so much of my energy reaching beyond me.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't quite have it yet, or I didn't make that connection quite yet, or oh, he hasn't like noticed my potential yet. I'm almost there, almost got that job. And our friend Milana Snow, I had a Reiki session with her recently, and we were just focusing on like my vibration that I have right now in this moment holds everything, holds everything in my future, all the potential, all the love that I need, all the talent, all the vision. And it just, in that moment, it just struck me. I was like, it struck me as truth, you know? And I just got so emotional. I was like, oh my God, like I've been spending so much of my energy reaching outside of myself when, I could have been really tapping into my own vibration and allowing things to be attracted to me for that reason. I'm still working on it, but that really like struck me that I have everything I need.
Yeah. Living in LA, I feel like that's the thing that most people, when they talk shit about LA, they talk about this next aspect. And that is, there are so many ways to get distracted in LA, right? Mm-hmm. And everybody knows it, but there's a lot of money, there's a lot of beautiful people, there's a lot of opportunity, but also there's a lot of squalor because people reach for that opportunity and don't hit. And, if you miss in LA, it can get pretty freaking bad. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I remind everybody, especially haters who kind of come to LA and decide to talk about how superficial it is, et cetera, et cetera. I say, you know what? It's a city like every other city. There's accountants and lawyers and janitors and incredible artists, but also people who play the guitar for a living. You can find anything you want here. So yeah, sure. We live, even where we are right now, we're 4 blocks from a Bentley dealership and 10 blocks from a Ferrari dealer. And if you want to focus on the materialistic things, sure, they're all over the place here. And if you do that, there aren't a lot of options in terms of what's going to happen to you here, because you will never reach, odds are, no matter who you are listening right now, you're never going to reach the quote unquote top in LA, because there's too much. People are too beautiful, like have too much money, too much success, and to me, it's had the opposite experience. It totally recentered me.
Me too.
It's made me go, oh, I don't need to chase any of those things, because it doesn't matter what I get. I could literally get the $2 million car and the $40 million home, and I'm not on top of anything here. Oh, so I can just relax. I don't have to go after any of them.
I think also both of us have worked with really, really high-end, like top of the top celebrities, or the richest man in this country or that country. And we've both had all of those clients. So it's been really close to home, where we're like, oh, like one of the top movie stars in the world, or one of the, these amazing human beings that we all like look up to, aspire to be, think they're so happy. Like we're reaching to get to that point, and they're no happier, if not less happy.
Yeah, from my vantage point, unfortunately, most of the time, if I get to see somebody, they're not in a good place.
Yeah.
Right.
I deal with people when they have addiction problems. So it doesn't matter if you're worth $7 billion or $7. If I'm seeing you, odds are life is not going great. But yeah, that's true. That's something that really taught me. Yeah, not in your world. But that is definitely something that taught me. I've worked with people who are competing with others in terms of how big the fucking yacht is. And they're so miserable. They wake up in the morning and pop pills and start drinking wine at 7:30 a.m. Not exactly the life I want. And so, yeah, that's a good perspective thing. Cool. So that's the advice. The best experience you've had to date. I know that's asking a lot, but happiest, best experience. Dark and moist? No, sorry.
Yeah,
sorry, I had to go there.
Had to be dark and moist.
You got to bring it full circle from the beginning. Proudest moment? Sorry.
Proudest moment.
Best proudest moment.
It just keeps like, I don't know if that's like, if there's a moment, but I just know that every day I feel so proud of what I'm doing.
That's awesome.
It is. It's like, when people ask me what I do, or when I talk to people about the podcast, I'm like, yeah, you should listen. And to be proud enough of what I'm doing to say, like, you should listen, and not be shying away from it, and not say, yeah, it's on iTunes, you can download it, whatever. I'm like, no, actually, you should listen. I'm fucking proud of this. And it happens every single day, where like, I feel so proud that, we put in this work and we do what we do. There hasn't been a day that went by that I don't feel like that.
I completely agree.
That's awesome. And you guys have a pretty substantial community at this point. So you hear back and you get to connect to the lives that are being affected.
Yeah. You too, you get those, you guys both get those messages and stuff, and it just means so much that, these people appreciate you, and it is like ego talking, but it is like people seeing the real you and honoring and respecting that. And then like inspiring is overused. So it's hard to say something other than inspiring, but really inspiring people to like be their authentic selves is like the best feeling in the world. Like, I realized the other day, like 2 days ago, I'm like, what I do by being my complete self on the podcast inspires others to be their complete self. Like, that's like the greatest gift ever. Like, there's nothing better than that. I just feel so lucky that we found this and that we were gifted this, ability and opportunity.
And we see like every day, it's almost like we created this and we continue to be so much a part of the community. And then we step back and it's like, it sustains itself. Like our community is connected to each other.
Because you've put in the work.
100%.
Right.
But it's just
that community
like,
was separate people, and what connects them is the node that is almost 30.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But it's just like, that is a proud moment to see a community form. And it's not for us. It's just kind of around this conversation that we started. But I mean, it's incredible. And I do think for me, it feels full circle. Like, and I think for you too, just a relationship with women in particular, you know, I didn't really have a great relationship with girls growing up. I didn't have a great experience in school. And now to like have a group of just like the coolest people ever.
I love, you know, can we just put it
crazy.
out there? Like junior high and high school fucking suck.
The worst.
Why didn't anyone talk about that being the worst years of your life?
It is
Yeah.
terrible.
Like, honestly though, like, why didn't anyone tell me like, hey girl, this is going to be the worst years of your life?
Buckle up.
Buckle the fuck up.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I swear it's so much better. Like now, all my friends are nerds. I mean, I have one friend who's not a nerd. Shout out to Darren.
Darren, you pimp.
I have one friend who was probably the cool guy in high school. All my other friends, we were relegated to, I was like the smart druggie. That was my clique. I don't know if I got any other smart druggies in the listeners, but you know, we were kind of in these like outcasts, and we were always looking up to these personalities that I wouldn't trade anything with at this point. But it was painful. I mean, it was a really honestly painful experience to go through it at the time, clawing at this thing that never materialized. I had no chance. It wasn't in my world. And you're right. I have no idea why nobody tells you. People keep pretending like high school is so great.
Talk about
in all the
that?
movies, it seems so great.
I have to say though, because I was on the other side.
Yeah, Sophie does not feel us on this one.
No,
Cool
I don't feel you on
cheerleader.
this one. I was a cheerleader.
Cool hot cheerleader.
Played soccer.
Popular.
Homecoming.
Avi.
But it fucking sucked. It still sucked. So just FYI.
Pressure.
Fucking sucked. No, it did. Like middle school was rough.
Yo, the worst years of my life.
And I moved
Every
around
day I
a
lived
lot.
in fear.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, my best friends hate me today.
No, like
Literally.
Cool.
my
And then it was like,
girlfriend that's coming tomorrow to visit with her 3 kids. She's coming into town because I'm having this like ceremony on Saturday for
can't wait.
the baby and me. And she's flying in tomorrow, and she was such a dumb bitch, Eva. And she'd like demote me on the BFF list.
Yep.
And like,
Dude.
Yep.
Who are these mini CEOs
Heartbreaking.
just fucking running
Yo,
shit?
100%. Yo, like,
Making lives
you've
hell.
moved down to the
Yep.
6th BFF.
did you ever
like,
get 3-way
6th?
called? Like,
Oh, yeah.
by your best friends, and they're like, hey, so what'd you think about Chelsea's outfit today? And you're like, oh my God, I hated it. And Chelsea's online. She's like, yeah, bitch. You're like,
I knew it.
yo, it was like every day was like Dramaville.
Yeah,
I'm like,
Dramaville.
what does everyone hate me for today?
Made fun of for things.
Made fun of.
I got my teeth. I used to have a gap in between my teeth.
Yep.
Cute.
But the rest of my teeth were all straight, so I couldn't get braces, even though I
Yep.
really wanted them. So I got bonding done in 9th grade. And my best friend, who was also a cheerleader, Malia, never gonna forget this,
She told everyone.
didn't tell everyone. She just like, she looks like Bugs Bunny now.
Yeah.
And like, it was heartbreaking.
Yo,
I was
that is-
15.
I'll never
I
forget.
finally fixed the
Traumatizing.
issue, and now you're.
What did people make fun of you for?
I
Peter Pan.
I cut my hair for Peter Pan, so I had like this cute little
Pixie cut.
lesbian haircut, and it was so cute.
Shout out to all our LGBTQ
Yes,
listeners.
hell yeah, like literally. But
You inspire me.
yeah, and I actually had like a bunch. I had like Ellen as inspo, no joke, for my hairdresser.
Love it.
But I mean, I was in an all girls private Catholic school, 23 girls in my graduating class. This one main girl, Queen Bee, we were best friends first year, second year, just made my life hell.
Yeah.
She told everyone not to be friends with me, so no one talked to me.
And it was because you like borrowed something the year before and didn't give it back or something.
I started getting parts in the plays. So she was like,
no, there's always a reason. It just gets blown out of proportion to this level that literally anywhere else in the world would you get arrested for. Like in any other
course.
scenario, you treated people like that that, and jail would be waiting for you on the other
course.
side.
Yeah,
In high school, it's cool. It's all good.
And years later, years, working in New York, I was bartending. She starts working at the same bar. No. So this, like, she had made my life hell. I was like, whatever. Forgot about it. Moved on college, moved to New York, bartending, full circle. She came back and she apologized. She's like, I just wanted to let you know that I'm sorry that I treated you the way I did. Like, I'm so sorry.
Awesome.
And I was like, I forgive you. Of course.
Nice.
Thank you. It's one of those thank you moments where you're like, you taught me a lot, so I'm good.
I think what's nice about it now, having the community, the reason I went on this tangent is you find your people. Yeah. Only nobody in junior high or high school should be listening to this show, but it's only in those places that you are forced to be part of social groups that you don't necessarily care for. And you grow out of that and you get your people. Yeah. And that's all we ever wanted. We just wanted our people.
Totally.
And once you do that, you can end up with a community that is authentically like you and appreciates who you are. And that is the best gift anybody can give you, because you've always been that person. You just wanted somebody to tell you that it was okay and not, be hated or demoted to 6 on the BFF.
3-way called.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. That sounds painful.
Demoted to 3rd on the best friend AIM profile.
Dragged down.
Remember that?
So I don't know if this is going to be one of those experiences, but what has been, so that was the most rewarding. What has been one of the most challenging experiences you've had?
I'd say one of the most challenging experiences I've had is maybe like working through anxiety and depression in my life. So it's been in my family, and figuring out and understanding it, and then like working through it and like managing it in my life, understanding when I'm on the brink of something that could look like depression now, and managing it.
I love that you said that. I think a lot more people struggle with that than ever admit it.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard now. I know how to handle it, and I feel like it's kind of my dark passenger. I can see it near me, and I can see it when it's going to come on, and I know the triggers for it. So that's been fine. But I think when I didn't understand what it was, like I went through a really dark period in high school, and everything was gray for like 2 years of my life. And I never felt like there was a reason for being or a reason for anything. And so, yeah, managing that. But now, that gives you just the ability to have a deeper level of compassion with people. And that's, the reason for that.
That's awesome. Lindsey, you got a most challenging moment?
Yeah, I think if I think about it, when I was transitioning out of my last long-term relationship, and I've talked about this on the podcast a little bit, but I was with someone for 5 years, and when things kind of started to go awry, or we started to grow apart, instead of either trying to fix it or breaking up properly, I was unfaithful on a consistent basis. And it was more than just like a one-time thing. It was definitely a physical and emotional affair. And, I was the one that fucked up and was the one in the wrong technically, but it like killed me, because I didn't know who that person was. So yeah, I was just in a like dark place for a long time, because I thought that he was the one for so long, and I just thought it was my fault that I wasn't feeling in love with him anymore. And then I proceeded to, be unfaithful. That just, hit it home. And so I think for a full year, I was just, kind of hated myself. But
the shame.
Yeah, the shame was so
doing,
heavy.
Yeah.
So heavy.
It's tough. I mean, we all do things we're not proud of, but if the context is right, a lot of times we start taking them on as who we are instead of things we did.
So
Exactly.
Because we all have done things we're not proud of. Every single person listening to this and every single person in this room has done, and I've done more than enough. When that switches to, oh, I'm a piece of shit, it takes on an entirely different meaning. All of a sudden, it feels like there's no redemption, like you can't make your way back.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, I feel you on that one. I've been there.
Yeah.
On a more light note.
Yeah. Bring us up, sister.
Self-care rituals.
Ooh.
Call them out. Call them out.
Call them out. Self-care rituals. Meditation. You know, I know that's a lot of people do that. That's
With
like
an app
no
on your own.
I've never. I don't like
guided.
Yeah. I just don't like the thought of like waves coming through when I'm at a deep, really trance state. You know what I mean? I don't like any impression like that.
Do you sit in the same place? Do you lay down? Do you do it when you wake up?
I don't lay down. I usually do it when I wake up if I can, but usually it's best before bed for me because it can like bring me into like a deep relaxation. And then a lot of that is affirmations, kind of conversations with myself. Lately, my self-care has been listening to nothing in the car and talking out loud to myself. So kind of like having like a verbal understanding or able to like track my like talk, you know, so what am I thinking about? How am I feeling? And saying it out loud as if I was talking to myself as a friend has been something that I'm really into.
I like that.
But yeah, self-care, you know, we're living in LA, so it's the dance of having your self-care routine be yourself being a prisoner to it or like using it to like help you. So I think that's like where I kind of struggle. It's like my life could be appointments if I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah.
Yeah, I think we're so lucky in that sense, but also it could really take you hostage and
Yeah, man.
make you overthink everything. Self-care, I think for me, because we're always kind of on, right? We're always working on the podcast, or I'm teaching soul, Krista's working, blog, and finding things that don't necessarily have like an end goal. So I sing, and I just love to like sing for no reason, write for no
really
reason,
good.
but not really, you know what it's just like this freedom in the movement, in the sound, if I'm dancing in my apartment, like I live alone,
Okay.
I'm like just really
I was going to ask,
Going
like,
for it.
are we talking like an open mic kind of singing, or
She's
at
done
home
that
in
before
your
too.
kitchen?
She's got a really, really good voice. It's like not like it's not like play. It's not like I sing in my apartment. It's like a good voice.
But I don't have any like aspirations to be a
Sure.
pop star. It's just, that's a part of me that I don't get to practice in our daily like routine. So to be able to like kind of take time, even just like meet with a friend and like write a song and just sing it together for no other reason. Like it may never like, and no one may ever hear it, but things like that.
We're going to wrap up this episode with a...
Yeah, right.
We're gonna do a guitar duet.
Oh my God, I know
Love that.
you are musical.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
I love it. It's the same thing.
It's the
I
same
need
thing.
it to feel really good. Whenever I've had coaches in the past, they always go, "So when do you play music?" I go, "I don't really have a lot of time for it." They go, "What the fuck is wrong with you? Go play some music." So
I like leave it feel, I'm like vibrating on even just in the shower. I'm like, and I get ideas.
Yeah.
I get out of my head and just more.
so much happier when I do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't explain it. So things like that. And just, you know, I work out for my part of my job, but finding ways to move and sweat for myself, you know, outside of Soul Cycle is really, really important to me because
Yeah.
I'm like giving. So I really need to fill back up or else, you know, I might implode. But
Totally.
yeah.
The name of the podcast, gals, is Ignited.
best name ever.
What ignites you?
What ignites me? I feel like seeing other people finding their purpose and giving back. So if you are authentically being yourself and you're doing something selfless that is giving back to others, that's like the coolest thing, you know, that you're using your authentic gifts to like help other people. And I think there's like a shift. I know that we're in like the selfie generation and everyone's like very self-focused, but I think we'll start to see the shift where everyone is more community focused, because I like have a belief and faith right now that we are doing self-care as a, you know, as a society, and everyone's kind of being so self-focused, but we're kind of figuring out how to love ourselves. And then across the next like couple years, hopefully we can use that to like love each other.
Thanks.
Yeah. I mean, just you saying that, like witnessing people love themselves, because I think we're just bombarded.
Yeah, like at our events too.
Yeah. We're just bombarded, I think, in the media with these perfect images. And I can just imagine, you know, people judging themselves, comparing themselves. And so
To people like us, you know, it's,
yeah,
it's hard.
right.
I mean, you see us and you're like, whoa.
Can we get a selfie right now in real time? But yeah, it's to see that kind of transformation. And we've seen it even with like OG listeners in our group who like to talk to us on the daily, and just literally watching them transform, not because of us, but just what's going on in the world. And like you said, self-care is just a thing, and just watching them take care of themselves. And I just hope that for like our parents' generation too, that they kind of like catch the bug and they really start taking care of themselves. Because there's nothing more that I want than for people to take care of themselves, love themselves, and really also feel inspired again, you know, because I'm always feeling pretty inspired. I feel good most of the time, you know, so like, and so to see people really tap into that, and I think it is tapping in, and it's a practice. It's, you know, that's it. That's why we do it.
Yeah, I love that.
Love you.
Self-care, self-love, loving up.
Peace, love, and almost 30.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming here. Thank you for the podcast and everything that you guys do for you and your community.
Thank you guys.
And yeah, I can't wait to stay in touch. You guys are going on tour, and I think you're going on tour literally right around the time that this episode comes up. So we're going to have a link in the show notes to your dates and where you're at.
Thank
And
you.
Awesome.
I understand there might be swag.
Oh yeah,
Lots of swag.
Lots of swag.
Cool.
Yeah. it'll be
So
fun.
we'll connect our people. Our people will connect with your people.
Perfect.
On that
We'll be
LA
in touch.
note, we're going to kill this.
Yes.
Thank you all for tuning in.
Thanks for being here.
Oh, we
Thank you
love
for
you
being
guys.
here.
Thank you so
Love
much.
you.
Love you.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Ignited podcast. We were so happy to have you along for this ride. Please go and subscribe to this. Leave us a review. We love hearing from you. And if you want more, don't forget to go to ignited.com, where all the podcast episodes are available with show notes and so many of the little details and links from each one of these interviews. And you can look at all the future events that we have going on, all the things that make Ignited so special, even beyond this recording. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week.